In the sleepy, quiet town of Plainfield, Wisconsin, there was this one lonely farmhouse. Looked like any other from the outside. But what was happening inside, well, the lines between life, death, and home decor had been blurred into an absolute nightmare.
So imagine you're one of the police officers stepping into that farmhouse for the very first time. You're met with a scene that, well, it just doesn't compute. The first hint that something was terribly, terribly wrong? The lampshades. They soon realized they weren't made of paper or fabric. They were made of human flesh.
And it just kept going. Normal, everyday objects you'd find in any home were twisted into these monstrous artifacts. They found a chair, and yep, the seat had been carefully upholstered with human skin.
With every single step they took deeper into that house, the discoveries just got more and more grotesque. They came across a belt, complete with a buckle, that had been fashioned entirely out of women's nipples.
It just begs the question, right? What kind of mind even dreams this stuff up, let alone actually creates it? And maybe more importantly, how in the world did police ever stumble upon this hidden house of horrors to begin with?
Well, it all kicked off with a search. A local hardware store owner, a woman named Bernice Warden, she just vanished into thin air. And that investigation? It led police right to the front door of this quiet, kind of shy local guy named Ed Gein.
And what they found inside that house, buried under all the clutter and filth, it didn't just confirm their worst fears about what happened to Bernice Warden. Oh no, it opened the door to a much, much bigger nightmare.
It's about 4:30 in the morning when they find it, a bloody burlap sack, and inside, her freshly severed head. 2 huge nails had been hammered into her ears, and they were connected with a piece of twine. When they asked Gein about it later, he just calmly told them he was planning to hang it on the wall, like a decoration. But here's the thing, Bernice's murder? That was just the tip of the iceberg. As the officer started to really truly search the rest of that house, the full horrifying scale of what Gein had been doing, it became terrifyingly clear.
So the forensics came back, and it was determined that all the human remains scattered throughout the home, they came from roughly 15 different people. 15. Their bodies had become his raw materials.
And this wasn't just random chaos. This was a hobby, a horrifying, systematic hobby. Skulls were sawn in half to be used as soup bowls. The actual faces of 9 different women had been peeled off and mounted on the wall like hunting trophies. The police also found a box of noses, a lampshade decorated with human lips, and a human heart just sitting on the stove.
And this led to a pretty big problem. You've got remains from 15 bodies, but Gein, he would only ever admit to 2 murders, Bernice Warden and another woman, a tavern owner named Mary Hogan. The math just didn't add up, and that led to another, even more chilling confession.
Gein just flat out explained it. For over a decade, he and a friend of his named Gus have been secretly visiting local cemeteries in the middle of the night. They dig up the freshest graves, crack open the caskets, and just harvest body parts from the dead. So, why the jump to murder? Well, in his completely warped mind, it was purely practical. He told the police the skin from the corpses he dug up was, well, it was too dry. It was hard to work with, not easy to sew. But fresh skin, he explained, was plump and moisturized. You know, ideal for his little crafting projects. And this brings us to the real why behind all of this butchery. Because he wasn't just collecting trophies. He was building something specific, for a reason that is quite possibly the most disturbing part of this entire story. He was building what you can really only call a woman's suit. A complete outfit that he was hand-sewing from human skin. We're talking leggings, a corset made from a torso, and a shirt with breasts attached. And his process was so methodical, so step-by-step. He'd get the skin, he'd carefully sew all the pieces together, and he'd assemble his full bodysuit. And he did it all with one singular, horrifying goal in mind. He wanted to wear it. In his confession, Gein admitted everything. He would put on this long-sleeved shirt of skin, the leggings, the whole horrifying outfit. He would dress up and just walk around his dark house at night, pretending to be his deceased mother.
So, after all that, let's look at the aftermath. Let's see how this absolute nightmare finally came to an end for the people of Plainfield.
Okay, so Gein was charged with first-degree murder. His plea? Not guilty by reason of insanity. At first, the court agreed, said he was unfit to stand trial, and sent him to a hospital for the criminally insane.
But then a decade goes by and suddenly they decide he's sane enough. They put him on trial and it took less than a week for the jury to find him guilty.
And the house itself? Well, it became this bizarre, morbid tourist attraction. The town absolutely hated it. And then, right before it was supposed to be sold at auction, the House of Horrors just mysteriously burned to the ground. Arson was the #1 suspect, but frankly, I think a lot of the locals were probably pretty relieved to see it go.
You know, the story of Ed Gein leaves you with this really deep, unsettling question. It forces you to wonder about the kind of darkness that can hide behind the most ordinary faces in the quietest little towns. And you have to ask yourself, can you ever really erase the evil that happened inside a place just by burning it to the ground?